It is now my pleasure to introduce Angela Blanchard, President and CEO of Neighborhood Centers.
Just for a minute there, I felt really uncomfortable, like maybe I was just this extremely overeager speaker that had left to the stage prematurely. But I didn't mind sharing the stage with that lovely video, and I hope you caught that 700 and something million barrels of oil a day, because in Houston, Texas, we pretty much kind of live by the barrel of oil per day metric, and by how much we could get for each barrel of oil a day metric is really a determinant of how successful a fundraising year we are going to have. So, so we all pray for barrel of oil prices to rise, do we not? Yes. I know. I'm sorry for everybody else, but that's the truth. That's the truth down here. Yeah, I know. Birmingham's over there going, no. So, and I decided while y'all were watching the 40th anniversary film there, that if I were going to hang out, I'd hang out with the Tacoma, Washington boat and the Birmingham people. And, I have to say that I know. So I was a little bit surprised because I have to tell you, I never thought of Tacoma as being all that wild a place. But you never know about a city, do you? So here's the deal. I'm just supposed to talk to you about neighborhoods and communities, which is my favorite subject. When I'm asked to speak, the first thing I do with my team is we try to find out if the people in the room are our tribe or not. So if you're our tribe, if you're a member of the Neighborhood Centers tribe, then you will run toward the fire and you stay for the hurricane. That's our tribe. We like to meet with, talk to, work with people that go right toward the biggest challenge, the hardest thing, the most miserable spot that everybody else has written off. Because we know, in every neighborhood, in every community, in every city across this country, no matter what you've heard, there are strengths and resources and assets and leaders like all of you. There are people that care so deeply about their neighborhoods, they'll work hard to bring it back after a storm, they'll rebuild it after a fire, they'll work together to clean it up, and they'll come together to heal when social unrest tears it apart. So today I'm standing here with the stories of New Orleans and Ferguson and Baltimore and King Lake, Australia, and all of the other communities across the world that have suffered in some way and sought a way forward, found a way to come together to create something healthy and whole out of the neighborhood. And it always happens in this way. It first begins with leadership, because what gets led gets done. Now, I got a little secret for you. Big, real important wisdom here. No one is coming. If you're in your neighborhood and you're waiting for the enabling policy, the magnificent check writer, you're expecting that the ordinance that's going to be passed is going to solve it all. You think if only these people would start behaving better, everything would be just fine. You're in trouble because no one's coming. You own it. It's your community. Here's the second bit of wisdom. You're all you've got, and you're enough. All right. You're enough. Because in every community, there are strengths, resources, and assets. There are unimaginable acts of bravery, strength, and generosity, and when you tap into that to work with the community, you can find a way forward. So I was reading this op-ed piece because, you know, right now everybody has an opinion about Baltimore. And I was reading some of those opinions, and of course people are tracing the social unrest and the difficulties in Baltimore back to 5 or 6 or 10 different times that Baltimore people have undertaken to transform the neighborhoods there. So all these people from outside Sandtown are talking about what's going on there and how it works there and what should have been done there and what should be different there. But right in the middle of one of those stories, there was a woman who said, I love my neighborhood. I raised 4 children here. My neighbors helped me raise them. I plant flowers here. I speak to my neighbors and they speak to me. This is my community. So, second most important wisdom about community development is don't make up stories about other people's neighborhoods. And stop telling the scary story. So I should have told y'all, because it goes along the lines of the warning label on things. Right up front, I should have told y'all I'm Cajun. Now, I have to say, if you're from Tacoma, Washington, I don't expect you to know what Cajun is. But we like stories. And they don't have to necessarily be factually true, as long as the spirit of what you're saying is true. All right? So I got to work in New Orleans, and this is an important year, because it's the 10th anniversary of Katrina. And the wisdom that I've gained from having connections to people who've rebuilt after storms, rebuilt after fires, recreated their communities after everyone else had written them off. Big wisdom is you can really be just 20 minutes from a community and have no idea what's going on. You don't live there, you don't know. And before you start to help, there's an old axiom that says we measure twice, cut once. Well, this is what I'd like you to take away today. Listen twice, help once. Because it really starts with the hunger that people have to make their lives better. And that lives in every one of us, and it lives in every family, and it lives in every community. And that's what we're listening for all the time at neighborhood centers. Who cares? Who deeply cares about this neighborhood, and who owns the whole story and can tell you block by block, house by house, what happened there and why it was important? Those are the real leaders. And before you make a move, I'm struck at times in this country by how often what we label as help turns out to be an act of aggression, because we think we know better than the people who live there what they ought to care about. So listen twice, help once. Listen for aspiration, listen for longing, listen for hunger, listen for what people will get up early for, stay up late for. Because that's what there is to build on. Build on that, resource that. So I'm so lucky to have a bunch of great stories that come from people all over the world like us, who are trying to nurture their communities into a better way of being. And recently, at Neighborhood Centers, we got to spend some time with a group from Charlottesville, Virginia. So Charlottesville is gotten to be a little bit of an expensive place to live, and there's very little affordable housing. But Charlottesville also has a trailer park. And the trailer park is home to 1,500 people. They live in about 360 trailers. And this trailer park sits in a really beautiful area, so right for developers to buy it up. But the trouble with that would be that, of course, 1,500 people have nowhere to live. So this brave organization, same tribe, brave organization bought the trailer park. Habitat for Humanity for Charlottesville bought the trailer park, and they're working with residents there to redevelop it. Now, everyone's story about this trailer park was a bad, negative, terrible story. It was full of the usual things you hear. the lacks, gaps, needs, what's broken, what doesn't work. But what they found there, when they went in with a different story, what makes this place a great place to live? Why do you like being here? People are not trying to get out of it, they're trying to get into it. Why? Because they're connected. They look out for one another. They are their safety net. That is a community. And I just say, be careful when you unravel a neighborhood. Be careful when you take apart a community. It's really hard to recreate it. And it's our most valuable asset. I have a friend that says that for every problem, answer is community. So what is the real way we learn to build community, to be connected? Well, all of you in this room are doing it. You're doing it with cleanup projects. You're doing it by creating community centers and spaces for people to gather. You're doing it by creating gardens where people can work side by side. Everything that brings us closer makes us stronger. Everything that brings us closer makes us stronger. Now, there's such a temptation when we look at neighborhoods to consider them from the standpoint of the physical structures, the infrastructure, the buildings. But over the years, what we've learned at neighborhood centers, and people come to us and say, can we have a community center? What they really want is to put a roof over their belief in one another. So we like to think that we first build communities, then we build the center. So whatever you're going to create and whatever you're going to build has to come from the community. And it needs to be born of the hunger, the longing, and the imagination of the people that live there. So there's something else that I learned from working in New Orleans, and I think it was one of the most powerful lessons. When we create something, particularly when we put our whole hearts into it, we are attached to it in a particular way. And when its time has passed, when the thing that's there, the building, the park, the monument, the garden, when its time has passed, it's difficult for us to let go of it. So when I was in lower ninth after Katrina, I worked with this wonderful woman. Her name was Patricia Jones. Now, she wouldn't have said she was anyone special. She's just one of those people that shows up everywhere, that cares so deeply about her community, she's done anything to bring it back. But she taught me something really, really important. Because I said, Patricia, what was the moment when it stopped being about the loss and it started to be about going forward? And she said it took a long time because we were grieving and it was difficult. But she said at one point on Memorial Day, about a year after Katrina, we gathered at the place where the levee had broken. We all brought what we had, anything that was left from the people that were gone. And we had a ceremony. And I think everyone in this room needs to learn from New Orleans. I'm, of course, completely biased. I'm talking about my relatives here, but we know stuff. Here's what we know. That in every transition, in every change, there's a death and there's a birth. And two things were going on at the same time of that celebration. One was they were saying goodbye to the people that were gone, and they were saying hello to the future that they were walking toward together. And I think we sometimes try to get past those moments. We tell ourselves we should forget. And that's not true at all. We should absolutely remember and be willing to say goodbye and then embrace what's coming. And we do that together by expressing the appreciation for what was and welcoming what we're building. And by the way, can I just suggest, it works a lot better if you do this kind of thing with food and music the way it's done in New Orleans. All right? Now, that's a city that knows how to hold a funeral. And y'all should all study up on that, because whenever you have to let go of something, it works a lot better if you play a little tune and dance in the street while you do it. So I think the message that I have for all of you today is one that I believe in completely, that The thing we care about most in this country is that the people who are here have a chance, through their own hard work, to make a way forward. We exist at Neighborhood Centers, the entire agency, for 100 years, one mission, one purpose, to keep this region a place of opportunity for everyone working for a better life, for everyone. And the idea that we can move forward as a city or a country, the idea that we can move forward without everyone, we pay a huge price for that. I think one thing that I love about my city, and I deeply love this city, is that we know we're all in this together. And we can't write off any group, any neighborhood, any place. We move forward together. And the other beautiful thing about our city is, and you may not know this, and if you're from New York, you won't believe it, but Houston is the nation's most diverse city. And the thing I like about that here is that most of us weren't born here. Most of us in this region were not born in this region. And of the number not born in the region, a significant number were born in another country. We don't share a past. We don't care who your dad is. Seriously, we don't. We just want to know if you're going to work. If you're going to work, you belong. And it doesn't take long. Just a couple of months and we act like you've been here forever. So not sharing a past has a great value. Here's why. We are all looking forward together. And that gives us, that is what is at the foundation of this city being a growing and welcoming city. So to keep this country a place of opportunity for everyone, every neighborhood has to be a launch pad. The whole idea behind a neighborhood is not so that you can exist in some secluded, fenced-in, gated, safe harmony. The whole idea behind a neighborhood is that it is a place where you get your fundamental tools for connection to the wider world. It's supposed to be a bridge. It's not supposed to be a gatehouse. So when you look at your neighborhoods and communities, I say, first of all, pay attention to who's there. Ask the new question. What's working here? How can we resource more of that? How do we amplify what makes us strong? So it's not just about who's there. The more important question is who's welcome. Who's welcome in your neighborhood? Have you gotten all nice and comfortable and cozy and now the new folks move in and you wait to see if they measure up before you say hello? Because that's not a good neighborhood. That's not a good city. The best cities say welcome. And by the way, here's how we do it here. And we hope you'll be a part of it. And we hope you'll help create it with us. So we need to change some things in some of our neighborhoods and communities because, and I have to say this, with all the passion I can muster, it is not all right for so many of our citizens to worry when they walk down the street. That has to change. No one can go forward in their lives if they're constantly being questioned about their very right to be where they are. So I want you to understand that I'm telling you something I know personally. I know personally that my biracial son was stopped more by the police before he was 20 than I've been stopped in my entire life. And it's because we've told the same miserable story over and over and over again. Now you might think I'm going to say next, I'm going to tell you who to be mad at. But I'm not. Because we did that. It doesn't work. Because in every community, in every neighborhood, it's really moments of grace and mercy, of connection and generosity. And I'll tell you, recently I was on the phone with elected officials representing Ferguson, and this one lovely man, it's the same thing I hear everywhere, this lovely man said, not only was he scared and concerned for his community, he was scared and he was concerned for police officers too.
Yeah.
Because when we're locked in this terrible conflict, none of us get to move forward. So I spoke this week to a bunch of graduating social workers. Graduating social workers. And there was not all of them were young, but quite a few of them were. And this, you know, I love that I'm 60 now, because I feel like when you're 60, you can talk about young folks. Like say stuff to them, you know, and boss them around a little bit. Not that they'll listen any more than I do, but we can do it. But I said to them, you know, there's a lot of talk that says, well, I'm tired of explaining my community. I'm tired of talking about these problems. I'm tired of educating people who don't get it or believe something different or haven't experienced it and just don't know. People say, I'm tired of doing that. And I say, too bad. Too bad. There's no whining here. The first 1,000 times are the hardest. After that, it gets easier. And you know, the other thing is, I think if you're not Nelson Mandela, and you didn't spend 25 years in a prison for trying to save your people in your country, then you don't have anything to talk about. But the rest of it's kind of easy, isn't it? So yeah. But I tell you what, I learned that. So I like to tell this because it's. I wanted to say, I'm glad you came when you did, because you've arrived in Houston right before it's hotter than holy hell. And right after we successfully fought off the invasion of the United States of America. We have some scary moments there. You know, don't pay too much attention to that. Most of the folks that live in Texas, we really do want to be a part of the United States. We really do. You know, I like to tell this because I get to tell. I went to meet with the President of the United States, the one we have right now, this president. Yeah, and I was very excited about it. And I was real scared because I think, you know, I wanted to do a good job, make my tribe proud, and, you know, not embarrass my mother. But I was texting my mom, and, you know, she was saying, well, how are you doing? How are you feeling? I arrived, I think that the meeting was supposed to be at 4. I think I got there, like, I don't know, around 11. Because, you know, something could happen, right? So they wouldn't let me in, you know, because I was real early. So I had time to sit there and text my mom, and she said, well, how are you doing? How are you feeling? So I said, well, Mom, I'm just saying a prayer that I do a really, really good job. This is my mama. God got you to the White House. You'd think you could do the rest yourself. My mama is a no whining kind of gal. So, you know, you got raised up by her, you know, feeling sorry for yourself and talking about how hard your work is and going to go very far. I don't want you to give up ever on community. I think you become a leader the day you commit yourself to something you're willing to work on, whether or not you have any guarantee of success. At Neighborhood Centers, we've spent years speaking out about immigration, begging, asking, pleading, explaining, educating, whatever we had at our disposal, we've been using to say it's time the country had comprehensive immigration reform. We need it. It's right. It's fair. It's best for everyone. And we haven't succeeded. And we're not going to stop because it's good for the country. We believe in people. That's the way forward. So we sit in a place today that was first Native Americans, then we came, then we built something, and we're all in this together. So we own all of that, and we move forward with optimism and hope. So I get a chance to teach sometimes with my friend Meg Wheatley, and she was working with a group of people and women in Rwanda who have survived almost unspeakable violence, and they were happy, and they were cheerful, and they were funny, and they were loving and connected. And she said, "How is it you are like this in the face of all these challenges and all this misery and all this hardship?" And they said, "We work together. I forget the rest." So I just want to say thank you. We were together today, and I appreciate it. It's a great honor to get to talk to all of you. And please go forward, nurture, tend, heal your communities. This truly is the answer. Thank you.